Hello, hello. Welcome to A Dreamer's Experience Conquer the Chaos. My name is Sean Laurie, and as a father of four and an entrepreneur, I want to give you guys different insights or tools each week that will not only help you as an individual, but also as a parent conquer the chaos.
And hey guys, my name is Tiffany Lowry and I co host alongside my husband. I do wear many hats, and the two that I'm the most proud of is being a mother and a wife. We've had many chaotic moments as a family, but have somehow, some way, always managed to conquer the chaos. And that's why I'm excited to be here with you guys to share part of our journey.
Yes, guys. So I am excited. We have he's a teacher, he's a husband, he's a father, he's a friend of mine. Just a knowledge man, pretty much anything you need to know, especially when it comes to the educational system. I definitely recommend you guys talk to this man. But yeah, we have the amazing Rock. How you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good.
Glad to be on
Um
your show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I appreciate you, giving us some of your time. I know it's crazy, especially with the little one and stuff like that.
Yeah, Zoe's almost a year old, so I can't believe I was been a father for almost a year. I'm like, oh my
I
gosh, what
know.
happened to the time?
That's
Yeah.
wild. That's why, and that's actually perfect for because what I like to do is an icebreaker. So that's actually perfect for my icebreaker. And my icebreaker is, what was it like having your first Father's Day? Like, how was that experience?
Oh man. Yeah, it was really emotional because
Mm,
for me, my journey with fatherhood was that, about when I found out I was going to be a father, I'm going to be straight and say that my first thought wasn't joy. It was more, oh, I don't want to F this child up. Right.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that really launched me into this journey of like, healing myself really
Mm,
Mm,
and really understanding like where did that thought come from, right?
mm,
And being able to really look deep within myself. And something I really realized through like mentoring, coaching, and just going through a lot of the inner work with people around me was that I didn't value myself. That's where
mm,
the thought came from. Was a lot of my childhood like trauma and things came up, and I was able to, with the help of a lot of others and guidance and coaches, to help me go through those things,
mm,
right? And a very powerful revelation I want to share was, I realized a lot of parents are willing to die for their kids. Like, it's easy for a lot of parents to be like, yeah, I'm willing to sacrifice for my kids, right? But how
yeah.
many parents are willing to say they're willing to live for their kids?
Mm,
mm.
What I mean by that is like, are you willing to live and like confront your own past, your own trauma that probably still affects you as a parent, and and therefore affects you as your child, basically your children.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that's the journey I went on, and I released. Whew, yeah, I'm almost crying just thinking about like, man, I've been through a lot of soul searching to really get ready for this, and so it was momentous. Like, wow,
that's
I can
dope.
I can receive the love that I got because, yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
I love that, man. So yeah, so that alone tells me you for sure was able to have an amazing Father's Day because your perspective has changed,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is
It's
amazing.
about, yeah, it's about, and it sounds so simple, but it's about, it's about wanting to let go of things and really, um, the wisdom comes from letting go of the emotion of the memory so that you can
Mhm.
gain the wisdom from it. Because
Mm,
oftentimes when we have like, like things in our past, we have these memories, we have very strong emotional attachment to it. But that's just our interpretation of what happened, right? We make meaning out of all the experiences we have. And so
yeah,
when you are able to look at something particularly very traumatic, and really, separate, look at it without the emotion, or letting go of that emotion, the emotional aspect, and looking at that situation, realize there's wisdom to be found there. There's a
yeah,
lesson in there, right?
Yeah.
It's like going into the eye of the storm, right? You see the storm, and you have this emotion attached to memory, so you don't want to look at it. You want to run away from it, kind of like Lion King, like, oh, I ran away from the Pride Land, because I don't want to face the story I had, like, oh, I killed my father,
Mm,
right? And
mm.
then it took him to really look at that event without his interpretation, realize, wait a second, that's not what happened,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
And there's that wisdom gain, right? So,
Yeah.
I like that, man. And,
yeah.
and you said something too, as far as like the emotions and things like that, and that actually made me think of my question. Well, one, I have two questions actually. One is, how long? I know you've been teaching for a long time, but how long have you been teaching? And then what's because I'm thinking about all the emotions and all the things went through dealing with COVID, right? So like, what has been the from your experience? What has been the biggest difference you've seen from parents before COVID to after COVID?
Yeah. This is my 11th. Well, let's see here. This beginning of August will be my 12th year in teaching.
Oh wow.
And I actually started out. A lot of people don't know this, but I actually started in South Central LA teaching for like about half my career.
Mhm.
And now I'm in the Inland Empire of California, which is a very different place. Um, I feel like with COVID, a lot of parents were very frustrated. I never met a happy parent. It was my experience of like COVID was like it was very frustrating and understandable because you had this thing happen in around March, right? I remember
Yeah.
it was like March 13th, actually Friday the 13th, ironically,
Yeah.
um, where I was driving home and we got the email saying we're not coming back to school, for a few weeks because it was just a week and then spring break. So they're like, yeah, let's just take 2 weeks off. Okay, cool. I was very happy, right? Obviously. And then when I went to the store, I was like, oh my gosh, what are all these people doing? They're like freaking buying everything up like it's apocalypse or something. I'm like, yo, people, what's up with y'all?
Yeah.
Um, and then there was a lot of chaos with, you know, I'm sure if your children were in public school, they had like the tech the laptop, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
laptops. There wasn't enough because every single district was like literally scouring everywhere for laptops, Chromebooks, internet packets, data packets. Trying to make sure every family had internet access. So it was just chaos. You
Mhm.
know, and to no fault of anyone, that's just how it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was very chaotic, and I think a lot of parents were very, very frustrated, and they got to see if they had an issue with the public school. I think it just kind of magnified everything in a way,
Mhm.
Mm.
right? All the issues and everything. So
Mhm.
yeah,
So
it was rough.
so what have you seen, I guess, since now that we're out of that, what have you
Mhm.
seen like now, I guess, from parents?
Yeah, I think parents are more aware of the issues in school, which is good because parental involvement is key. Whether you're homeschooling or you're in public school, parental involvement is a key aspect. I've talked to people who run homeschool groups, and they're like, yeah, this new generation since COVID, right? They've had influx too of homeschoolers, but what they've seen is the parents are kind of still have this public school mentality where like they just drop off the kids and they expect all the learning to be done there, and then they go home and they don't got to do anything. They don't got to review the work with them. They don't got to go over the what the like what's maybe the co-op groups have done with them.
Mhm.
They're just like, yeah, I mean, they're just kind of treating it as if it was just a normal day,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and realizing that when you make a choice to homeschool, regardless of your reasons, you are responsible for your child's learning, right? Ultimately,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? We're parents still at the end of the day, and parenting comes with it, right? Like education is a key component of parenting, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that because I think too when COVID hit, I think for a lot of parents too, they if they didn't, they should have, I feel like, but have more of appreciation for teachers too,
Oh, thank
right?
you. Yeah.
I know that's what I did, like, man, which
Yeah.
I already did. Me and Tiffany already did, but I feel like it magnified.
Oh, okay.
I mean, because to me, teachers don't get paid enough for what you guys do,
No.
because teachers have to be so much, right? They have to be almost like a mentor,
Yeah.
right? Almost not saying like depending on the situation, I guess maybe a father like figure, a mother like figure. We just saw some recently where Holly Berry was saying like her mom always worked, so her fourth grade teacher was like almost like a mother figure to her,
Hmm.
right? So it's just so many different roles that you guys play as teachers. And it made me think as well, because you were talking about as well as homeschooling and stuff. Like for you, now that you're a parent yourself,
Hmm.
will your daughter be getting homeschooled or public schooled? And like, what's your reasoning for which one you choose?
Yeah,
Because you kind of
absolutely.
get to see both sides, you know.
Hmm. So the cool thing is that my wife was actually homeschooled herself
Mhm.
from, she was the youngest of four daughters.
Okay.
So she was homeschooled from birth to, she was 18
Oh
essentially.
wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. So she has that experience. And for me, I was public school pretty much all the way. And I think we've committed to homeschooling, especially. which is a tough choice, to be honest. You know, 2 doors down from me is my neighbor is the principal of the elementary school that
Mhm.
like Zoe would go to,
Mm.
Yeah.
and the school is literally within walking distance from our home. You know,
Mhm.
it will take like a 10-15 minute walk and we're there, you know.
Yeah.
And the reason why we're willing to do that is because like um we want to instill values in our daughter and, you know, potential other kids. Like we want to instill values in them, right?
Yeah.
We want to set the tone of like, yeah, like from early on, because most people don't realize that from 0 to 5 years old, roughly, you know, like you learn 80-90% of what you know
Yeah.
already in life
That'd be
from
fun.
from the first 5 years of life,
Mhm.
right? All the lessons, all the your view on life, your perspective, that really is just ingrained in the kids when they're 0 to 5 years old. Because at that age, as you know already from having 4 kids, right? Kids are like sponges. They learn everything. They absorb everything into them, right? They don't have any filters. They're just a sponge,
Yeah.
right? And you can give a sponge water, or you can give it alcohol, or you can give it like something poisonous. They won't know. They're just going to absorb it because that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
sponges do. You know, so it's really important for us to be able to instill values that we feel are important for her.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're definitely going to go homeschool route, knowing that. And the funny thing is, I feel like as a teacher, I don't have necessarily an advantage over other parents, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, so just in your opinion, because you know you do work in the public school system, and then you know you are thinking about you guys are going to homeschool your daughter. What do you think the biggest benefit of homeschooling is, and the biggest benefit of public school?
Oh,
Mhm.
absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you brought it up. My view, I know that. So, for example, I read books like Weapons of Mass Instruction by John Gatto Taylor. I mean, this guy was New York State two-time Teacher of the Year, and then one day he quit. He
Wow.
like wrote an article. It was on New York Times, I think, back in the day. This is like the 80s, I believe,
Mm.
about why he's quitting. Though, even though he's an extremely successful teacher, people look up to him. And he wrote, you know, a couple books, Weapons of Mass Instruction, Dumbing Us Down. And I was really, I think my viewpoint on that up till I read his book was like, yeah, pro, you know, public school all the way. After reading his book, I'm like, whoa, you know, there's a lot of things that I didn't realize about the formation of public school that I was like, whoa, this is
Hmm.
stuff that no one talks about. It's very interesting. But having said that, um, you know, public school, the biggest advantage, because I'm gonna start with public school, is to say that the biggest advantage of public school is actually comes down to resources, right? There's massive amounts of dollars being put into the public school system, and if used correctly, it actually can make a meaningful impact.
Mm.
What I mean by that is, so the school I teach at, right? I actually run a middle school STEM program. You know,
Mm.
I teach kids robotics, I teach them 3D printing, I teach them computer science, all things that are actually very, very cutting edge and relevant, right, to their future,
Yeah.
right? A lot of times I ask kids, like, do you see yourself doing this in the future? They're like, yeah, I can see myself learning more about this in college or getting something like a degree in this or some kind of certification. And they would love to continue this type of education because it's relevant, right?
Mm.
Mhm.
Um, you and I might remember career technical education classes. So those are your woodshop classes, your home ec,
Mm. Yeah.
right? Your auto shop.
Yeah.
Those are things that I am very happy to say that my district supports thoroughly. Every
Wow.
high school has like CT classes. Every middle, and then now they're working their way down to the middle schools where they want us to have these classes so that students can just take something that is relevant, practical, and can teach skills, right? Because all you need is one skill to set you free.
Yeah.
You know, I can tell you the high school that most of my students go to, there is a STEM program there already, ready for them to go into, right? So we built a system of like, all right, you take my middle school pathway, and if you want to continue, then you can branch off into these pathways, which are 4-year programs each. You know,
Mm.
there's aviation, there's auto shop, there's engineering, there's computer science, there's biomed, there's health career pathways.
Mm.
So
Oh,
these are just some of the things that students can take. And the cool thing is they're getting certifications, like industry accepted certifications. So for example, if you take auto shop, right, you get a snap-on tool certification. It's just a certification that says you know how to use one of the biggest brands of mechanic tools out there,
Mm.
right? Straight
Wow.
up as an 18-year-old. You put that on your resume. You go to mechanic shop and say, "Hey, I would like to get an internship or job." You're more likely to get accepted because you actually have experience,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
I know how to do oil change. I know how to jack up a car. I know how to change out tires, right? They've done all these things already. And so they come into, 18 years old, they can say, I have the skill, right?
Yeah.
And that's oftentimes,
Hey.
better than like a college degree because you're
Yeah.
starting off, right, with something, a skill that's in demand.
Yeah.
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 Like that.
So that's like a shining point of like, yeah, there's a lot of resources,
Yeah.
just in my STEM program alone, I'm not gonna lie, in the past 5-6 years, I've accumulated $500,000 worth of material.
Wow.
That's a lot of material.
Yeah.
Every robotics kit is like $2,000 to $3,000. That's not something that maybe the average family can say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna just drop $3,000 because
Yeah.
my kid said, yeah, I love robots," and his kid doesn't like love robots, right?
Yeah.
That's not something that like a family could just say, "Oh yeah, sure, $3,000,
Yeah.
no problem."
Yeah.
So there's that huge amount of resource, and of course, you also have to put in context like we have 40 kids in class. You got to have a lot of material, right?
Yeah.
True.
Right? But if you scale it down to like that level of like just your family, for example, right? Like $2,000 to $3,000 is, it's definitely
Yeah.
something to do bake sales for.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, like you said, there's definitely benefit. Well, those are the benefits that done correctly can definitely be beneficial to your
Yeah, absolutely.
child.
If the resources are used rightly and
Yeah.
in a way that like really benefits the kids, then yes, absolutely, there's some good that can come out of it.
Now, what do you think for homeschooling? What do you think are some of those?
The biggest thing I've seen is that homeschooling is flexible. If something doesn't work for your kids, by all means, do it by them. What's so interesting to me is I've seen a lot of homeschool parents, they start their journey like they want to copy everything from the public school system, copy everything, right? They got to be the teacher. They got to know the answers because what it comes down to is in their minds, right? They have this image and script of what education should look like. It should look like this. The teacher has know the answers. So that means I got to know all the answers, right? Maybe that's because that's their experience, right? With public, maybe they went to public school and that's their experience. So they're drawing from that memory of like, oh, got to know the answers, got to have workbooks, got to keep them accountable, got to test them, got to, and the list goes on and on and on, got to catch them all, right?
Yeah.
and but the truth of the matter is the beauty of homeschooling is you can go at your kid's pace, you can be creative, you have time to explore things. And the amazing thing is when I interview a lot of homeschool parents, they say, yeah, we only do schooling, quote unquote, 4 hours a day. You're like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because when you're at home, there's no passing period, right? It's all about the kid. They can get work done faster because it's just about their progress, right? You got that those kids, like, let's say you have 4 kids, even like, okay, as long as you're keeping track of things, like you can get it done.
Yeah.
In way less amount of time. So you have all this free time, and the effective homeschoolers try to fill that time with like hobbies, right? Interests. This is where you can really nurture something that is not just in a traditional school. Sports. You can go to museum trips. You can go, whatever you want.
Nature walk.
Yeah, nature walk. Absolutely. And that's how you can even teach about science, right? Is like just using life. You can teach your kids so many things if you are able to have the vision of like, okay, this is how it should look like, instead of just what worked in the past with me. Right now we got to change that image of what schooling can possibly be.
Like instead of going by the book almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes some people even do unschooling where it's child-led, which I know sounds really interesting. It was all a theory to me until I met this one parent. And by the way, he was an artist for Marvel. So yeah. So this guy did, he designed, I won't say his name, but I'll say what he did. He designed the villain for Black Panther 2.
Oh, wow.
So this guy was like, I was like, whoa. And he was like, yeah, I unschooled my kid myself. And a kid was right there. He was 16. So I actually got to talk to him about like, yo, so what does your day look like? Like, what are you into? He's like, yeah, right now I'm learning about how to like be a social media influencer, and I'm taking courses on it. And I talked a little bit about 3D printing because he seemed interested. He was like, yeah, it's something I really want to get into, but at the moment I'm really committed to other things. So he was a 16-year-old who knew his goals, knew his passions, and could even tell me like, yo, I love what you're saying about 3D printing because I teach that stuff. He's like, but I gotta finish this project first before I can get to that. And I'm like, wow, what 16-year-old have I talked to that can say that to me? Like know his priorities and like know what he wants, right? So that's the power of homeschooling is it's child led.
Yeah.
And it sounds kind of weird because there's no test, there's nothing. It's just like, all right, kid, what do you want to learn?
Yeah.
Let's go learn it. It's like, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
But
well, now that I asked you the benefits of homeschooling and public schooling, what do you think are the biggest disadvantages of homeschooling and public school?
yeah, I mean, public school has a long list because I've been there for 12 years. But I've seen it. I think it comes down to the system wants conformity, right? The school system at the end of the day is designed to produce employees. That's the best way I can put it, right? It wants obedience, compliance, and fitting you into the system, right? You got to learn this at this point. You got to learn this at this point, and really a lot of things that we learn in public school, let's just be honest, we don't use it.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I've never used Pythagorean theorem in my life. And then that's the thing is like, so why are we putting all these standards and these topics right into our education system? Like why is it there? Is it just to teach compliance? Is it just to teach like, all right, just be quiet and just do your work and learn, right? But is that truly learning, right? Is learning, if it depends on how you define learning, right? Is learning mastery? Is it truly understanding a concept? Or is it just memorize it for the test and you're done?
Yeah.
Truly what the kids learn at the end of the day, like what does a high school diploma really mean? At the end of the day, right? Like the example I gave about, the kid with the auto shop class, boom, he has a certificate. That certificate means more to the workforce, right? To a boss than a high school diploma.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're hiring someone, it's like, well, this guy's got a certification in an actual skill. This person just has a high school diploma. So, who am I going to take?
Yeah.
No, that's true. That's true. I mean, and so, well, like you said, there's a long list. Like, you even talk about all the different negative influences, right? That could come with it. And things
gosh, yeah.
But so what is? Because I'm sure the listeners or people that are watching right now, they're wondering too, like, what are the disadvantages when it comes to homeschooling, though?
I think homeschooling can be done effectively, like I said, like the example I gave of the parent, right, who's a Marvel designer who really nurtured his kids in a way where like the kid knows what he wants at 16 years old. That's amazing to me. I have very rarely had a conversation in 12 years with kids of his age having that caliber of like knowing who they are, right, and knowing what they want, right? Most 16 years like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna graduate and then see where life takes me.
Yeah.
That kind of mentality of like
part-time job.
maybe live the parents at home. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of their response, right? But this kid was like, I know what I want. And that's done effectively. Now, I also see examples of where it's not done effectively and the kids are like just like, that's where it's like, all right, we're just doing the schooling thing. Then the rest of the time we're going to be watching TV, you're going to be playing video games and not really learning much from it. Right? It's like, okay, and maybe at least have your kid like maybe try to be a YouTuber or maybe a streamer, right? You pick up some skills along the way, right? Like we are about, how to entertain your audience, right? That's a skill. Public speaking, when you're in front of a camera and you're on Twitch, right? What makes someone want to keep watching and be engaged with you, right? That's a skill you can easily just from saying, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? And you can learn and monetize it and learn some entrepreneurial skills within, like being online, right?
Yeah.
So it really comes down to parents and kids, kind of like collaborating on like what homeschooling could look like, right? What is the vision? What is the goals, right? Because if it's very unclear or it's just get the work done, then you have 8 hours to do
whatever you want.
what? Yeah, like then
Yeah.
what's the value of that? You know, you're
Yeah,
just is that any better than
than going to school.
yeah, like you just finishing work and then you're just sleeping the whole day. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, like that doesn't help either. You know,
Yeah,
so homeschooling has the potential to be very effective and very child led and interest driven and becoming something great, or it could be depending on how the vision goes. It's like well, your kid's just sleeping all day.
Mhm.
now, because for one of the disadvantages I always think of, I feel like it's I guess a double edged sword in a way because it's like a benefit in a way for schools, right? It's what's it called, like being social skills, right?
Okay.
Being to be like social, being around different people, have to honestly overcome and deal with certain situations that that you might have to deal with in life, right? Like, oh, whatever, the kid's friend dated that girl that you like, right? Whatever, like crazy situation, right? Like, but and it sucks that those like and some of those kids, like, because I remember when I worked at school, like those situations suck for them, but it was like a
Mm,
good learning lesson for them too, right?
yeah.
And so you don't get that with homeschooling. So I know like some kids that were homeschooled as well that I've mentored and helped out and stuff like that as well. And like that's something that they struggled with at times was um, really social skills. Like I think for my boys, well,
Mm,
my oldest son, he's better with it, but my youngest son, he still deals with that social anxiety, right? So like
Yeah.
how do you find that balance where it's like, oh yeah, yeah, like for someone else, they're like, man, I would love to homeschool, but at the same time, my child is already so, I don't know, so afraid of dealing with anyone else, doesn't want to even be at the store with, you know what I mean?
mm,
Like, but going to school will help them break out of it, like, hey, no, it's okay. Like you don't have
mm,
to freak out. So what do you do in that type of situation
right.
if you're a parent that's like, oh yeah, I do want to homeschool, but
Hmm.
my child has bad social anxiety, or my
Right.
child just really, honestly, my child's the type that literally will just only, which is, I know that's the norm now, but strictly only communicate online, right?
Mm,
Where school, it forces you still to be able, because now nobody really calls, everybody texts, everybody, is on Instagram, Facebook,
right.
whatever. Like I don't literally, like you could date someone and never see them,
Mm.
so like what would you say for that parent, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first my perspective is, since I've been in the public education system, right, is first thing I want to say is like, can you name another time in your life where you only hang out with people of your age?
Mm.
None, right? I mean, other than maybe college, but even in
Yeah,
college, right? You still like if you go to community college, you're going to meet people of all different age ranges, backgrounds, right? They're there
yeah,
because, especially if you take the night classes, you're dealing with people who are, in their 20s, maybe 30s, and even 40s, 50s. They're just, hey, I'm working. I want to go back to school and learn something, right? Want to try to better themselves in a way,
yeah.
right? So it's like, first of all, when in the world are you ever going to only deal with people of your age?
Mm,
Only in public school, right?
yeah,
It's like this artificial environment almost. It's kind of interesting when you think about it, right? They just group them by age, and that's the system. And then we never really question, like, well, where else is this relevant in life,
Mm-hmm.
right? When I got out of college and I got my first teaching job, my coworkers had a vast age range. My best buddy in teaching and my mentor, he was like at that point he was like 10 plus years in teaching, and we were buddies. Like we would play chess together and talk about, and he would mentor me obviously in teaching um techniques and whatnot, and how to deal with students. But he was significantly older, right? And there was no problem with that. It's like we didn't
mm,
even think about it, even though he would joke and say, yeah, my car is older than you all you young teachers, like, yeah, okay, we get it, you get a car that's older than us, cool, we got you.
Yeah.
Right? there's
Yeah.
no other there's no literally no other time though, right? So that's the first
yeah,
thing, right? Is like, when are you ever going to have this opportunity to just be with kids, be with people your age? All of them. None. Right? Your kids got to learn how to like deal with people regardless of their age, their background, their experience, right? How to talk to them, right? Like a normal adult, you know.
yeah,
So that's the first thing. And two, you mentioned that with the introduction of like the phone, people being on TikTok,
mhm,
in my experience, when I give kids free time, they pull their phone. They
yeah,
don't even talk to each other. They're just on their phone. They
yeah,
might occasionally go, "Hey, check this out," and then go back to their phone, right? Like
yeah,
all their social interaction is on this phone that they're glued to,
Mhm.
now.
right?
Yeah.
Because the social media apps are designed to be addicting. They're designed to keep you on the app for hours
Yeah.
at a time, right? You go from one video to the next. And
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it as anyone else because I'll
Yeah.
wake up like, oh, just one video. Oh, oh my, look at the
Yeah.
time go,
You're like, oh, it's been an hour.
right? But it's designed that way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? So that's another thing is, when we were growing up, we had the old school phone, and you had to call people and you had like the text limit, right?
Yeah.
You had like 300 texts a month, so you had to
Yeah.
really, type a type long messages, right?
Yeah.
And it's evolved to the point where kids are born with phones in their hands, right? They know how to. I always joke with my kids because they are better at texting, right, with their thumbs than they are at typing on a computer,
Yeah.
right? So it's just a different we had to understand first that it's a different generation. They interact with each other more online than they do like in person, literally. At lunchtime, you have kids who are talking to each other, but a lot of them are still on their phones, talking to each other. I'm sure if you ask your kids, they probably say something like, yeah, a lot of kids are just on their phones if
Yeah.
they're allowed phones at school, right?
Yeah.
So that's a very different issue, um, than saying, "Oh, my kid's socializing." Well, no wonder they're on the phone all the time, right? When did they ever put their phone down, right, and then sit face to face with someone else and actually carry a conversation with them,
Mm.
like we are right now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Like so in homeschooling, you get the opportunity to say, "Hey, we're gonna go to the store today. You're gonna talk to the cashier, right? Here's the money. You're gonna hand it to them." And that's like training right there, right?
Yeah.
I said before, since you're done with school so early, let's go take you to, I don't know, martial arts class. You're going to learn how to interact with those kids too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
That's
Especially if
true.
you're involved with like sports, STEM, even chess club, right? You're still sitting across from someone and you still have to talk to them, right?
Yeah.
About something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are the things that I think if the homeschool parent is very intentional about, hey, let's get them out there. Let's talk to different people of different age, backgrounds, everything. Just take them to the store. They're gonna meet a lot of people there. Hey,
Yeah.
go ask that. You're at Target. Go ask the clerk where this is.
Yeah.
Right? They
No,
are
that's true. I like
right.
that.
The
Yeah.
truth, right? When are you ever going to be with only people of your age? Only public school and maybe college.
Yeah.
Right? If you
Yeah.
live in the dormitories, right? That's the only 2 times in your life. Other than that, you're pretty much interacting with the public, which means people of all
Everybody.
ages and
Everyone.
backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's kind of like
No.
interesting that parents are like, oh, socialization. I'm like, but you do realize that's pretty artificial, right? Everyone's within a year of each other. Oh, what
True.
month are you born in? Yo, I'm the oldest. You're only old by how many months? Come on,
Yeah.
right? That was so important to us,
Yeah.
right, back in the day. But now it's like, once I got to college, it's like age is just relative, whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Who
No,
cares?
I agree. I definitely think, like you said, playing the different activities, having them
Yeah.
maybe be in different situations. It could be at a store, church. You go to Six Flags or
Yeah, exactly.
wherever. Like you said, having them have to kind of get out of their comfort zone a little bit. Hey, ask this person. Hey, come right back. I'm right here. I see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that's what we have to do. Like he was mentioning with our 3-year-old, because,
Mhm.
when he was younger, well, not younger, but, during the pandemic and everything, we couldn't put him in daycare. He couldn't socialize with a lot of people besides our household. So now when, we take him to the store, it's like a social shock for him
Yeah.
because he had to be
Mm.
cooped up for so long and not be
Right.
around anyone. So now I know he's pretty good about that. Like, oh, hand the receipt or, do little things. And so that's stuff that we try to do too. So I
Mhm.
think that's good
Yeah.
that you brought that up.
Yeah, and I think COVID is an extreme phenomenon, right? That like really shut all of us
Yeah.
in our houses for quite some time.
Yeah.
And I can see where, yeah, that could definitely cause more social anxiety because you're just used to, mom, dad, your
Yeah.
siblings, and that's pretty much
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't go anywhere. He's hanging on to me like if we're out anywhere, he's hanging on tight. Like, okay, I'm fine seeing him, but you have to be next to me. So
Yeah, and that's totally understandable, but
yeah,
that's something that with time, is going to be okay as, things more open up more and whatnot. Let's hopefully, of course.
Yeah.
no, that's true. But I like that a lot. And you said something too because I had well, you actually elaborate on this some, but I want you to go a little bit deeper, I guess.
Okay.
Um, I guess as my final question for you is basically
Absolutely.
what you were saying, like for the parents not knowing the answers and things like that. And that's what I kind of, because there is parents out there that's thinking about homeschooling, right? But they're
Hmm.
like, I'm scared because, well, I don't know all the answers. Oh, I'm scared because, you know what? Yeah, I could take my child to the store and things like that, but maybe I don't have the finances right now to sign them up for baseball or
Mm.
some type of club, right? So they could be more social. So besides, I don't know, let's say they go to church or something. Besides church, and maybe the store every now and then, I can. Maybe they're basically just having all these questions like, I don't know if I can do this. This is maybe too hard. What would you
Mm.
say for those? Like they want to do it because, especially unfortunately with the shooting that took place a little while ago, I
Yeah.
know a lot of parents also, well, understandably, is like, hey, I'm gonna start homeschooling, but um, there's parents that want to, and they're just like, I can't, like, I'm quote unquote not smart enough, or I don't know certain things.
Mm.
What would you say to those parents that are on the fence, like they want to? Because,
Mm.
like you said, with public school, everyone knows pretty much about public school. Everyone knows the pros, the cons,
Yeah.
and so it's easy to go to stay there because you know it, right?
Mm.
It's comfortable. But with homeschooling, it's not comfortable because now it is quote unquote all on you in a way. Because you do have to say, okay, we do school. Okay, it's easy for me just to have you play the video game for 8 hours after because I'm tired too. It takes
Hmm.
energy for me to
Hmm.
be able to sit down and go over all these things with you, right? It takes
Absolutely.
time and effort as well. On top of, as a parent, they're still doing whatever else they need to do, or they're
Hmm.
maybe even working. Let's say they have the type of schedule where it's flexible, so they still have to work. Like, how do
Hmm.
you, like? I know I just gave you a lot, but how do you kind of combat all that?
Absolutely. Um, the first thing I'm going to address is, like the fear of not knowing all the answers. And it comes back to what I said before. What runs our lives is the image and scripts we have, right, about things in our life, right? So we have this idea of teachers as the person who knows all the answers, the sage on the stage. I'm here. I know the answers. Ask me anything, right? But that's not reality. That's not reality for, especially for me. If I can share my story, I think it was my 5th year teaching, right? I had done math teaching, I had done science teaching, so I was like, all right, I kind of got this down. And right before winter break, my principal comes in and says, "Hey, Rock, we want you to take over the STEM class." I'm like, hold on a second. The teacher who's teaching the STEM class is an actual engineer, or former engineer, I should say. Why are you taking him away and putting me in the class when I have no experience in this stuff?
Hmm.
And I was freaking out. I was like, but of course on the outside, I'm like, yeah, of course, yeah.
I
I'm
got this.
I'm ready, looking forward to it. I'm like, yeah, sure. You have no idea what you're doing, Rock. I had no idea what STEM was. I had no idea what the kids were doing. I just knew that it was a class where the kids go and compete in like things like building a mousetrap card, egg drop challenge, doing a presentation on a STEM topic. I had no idea of any of those things. I was already sweating as I was thinking about it, right? And come, January, I'm in the classroom and I'm looking at these kids. I'm like, so what do I do? Because I know nothing about any of what they're doing. And so my first question is, so what you guys been doing? As I was just smiling at them, like, what else am I gonna say? What you guys been up to? Can you guys show me what you did? So they showed me kind of what they did, their progress on building the mousetrap car and all that stuff. I was like, okay. And I quickly realized that um, I can't learn all this stuff overnight. That's just impossible. So what I did instead was I became a guide on the side. Right. So stage on a stage, no. Guide on the side, yes. What that meant was instead of having all the answers, I was just kind of guide them on their answers. Like I would help them Google things. I would help them I would teach them like how to YouTube their answers, basically. Like, yo, Mr. Rock, I don't know what to do with this car anymore because it just won't work. Okay, well, Google it and see if you can find like something similar, right? Maybe some kids have similar problems, right? You're not the first one to try to build this, right? And they're like, oh yeah, you're right. So I started guiding them instead of trying to have all the answers ready. I would teach them like, how do you look for things online? And the second year that I did this class, it became, all right, let's divide by interest. You want to build this, you want to do this, cool, get into your groups. All right, here's some basic YouTube videos on all this stuff. Any questions? By the time they were done watching the YouTube video, they were already building, right? Because they're like, oh, okay, we got the information, cool, right? And they learned quickly that it was a lot faster to just look for it online than ask me, because I would
Yeah.
just tell them go back to the computer. And it wasn't like I wasn't trying to be. And I know some people parents be like, how is that teaching? Really? I'm teaching your kids how to look for things on Google. I think that's a very important skill, right? How do
Especially
you
now.
troubleshoot things,
Yeah.
right? How do you you know, how do you present? How do you present a topic, right? Okay, look online, like look at public speaking skills 101. Go from there, right? And so that's the first thing I want to tell parents is like, hey, stop trying to have all the answers, because you don't, right? And we have to get over the fact that like what it means to fail in front of our kids, right? Or what even failure means. Maybe you had a very traumatic experience at school where the teacher embarrassed you because you didn't know something, and you don't want to repeat that in front of especially in front of your kids, right? When you're trying to present in front of like, yeah, I'm the parent. I know what's good for you. Okay, sure, but you don't know everything, right? And
Yep.
so it's better for your kids just to see like, hey, you know what? I don't know the answer, but let's look for it together. Let's look it up, and showing that and modeling that, you're telling your kids, hey, you know what? This is a life skill, right? It's okay to not know everything, but you have to go and look for the answer, right? So that's the first thing I would tell parents is like, if you're thinking about homeschooling, great. Be prepared to say, I don't know a lot, right?
Mhm.
Be prepared to be okay with that, right? Whatever failure means to you, you got to just, for the sake of your kids and for yourself, like just let it go. Let go what it means to be a failure. Let go what it means to be perhaps your image of what a parent should be, right? I gotta know the answers. I gotta do right way. I gotta do whatever's right. Sure, in some ways, yes. But when it comes to things that you don't know, like how you react to the unknown, is going to determine whether or not homeschooling is successful, right? Because there's a lot of unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
There
Yeah.
is a lot.
Yeah.
Right? What if your kid says, I want to learn about whatever's, and you have no idea? Like, okay, well, let's go look online first.
Yeah.
Let's explore together. Or you know what, kid? How about you write me a report on what you want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Show me. Right?
Mm.
Go do some research.
I like that.
Then we'll talk.
Yeah.
Right? Why should I let you become a YouTube influencer? Tell me the benefits. Tell me what you're going to learn. Tell me the skills that you're going to get from becoming a social media influencer.
So I think it's kind of cool that you say that, because it's kind of like taking bits and pieces from different things, like bits from public school,
Mm-hmm.
but incorporating it into your own way of teaching in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, teaching doesn't mean you have to know all the answers. And that's the first, I've talked to a lot of parents through, 12 years of teaching, they're like, oh, you're doing an amazing job. I'm like, actually, I just set up a great learning experience for your kid to discover the answers for themselves. Or ask someone else, ask a peer. Hey, how'd you do this? How did you get the picture on the website to like do this? Oh, here's where I found it. Here you go. Oh, cool. And isn't that more like a real workplace where if you have a question, you ask your coworker, right? Hey, how'd you do this? Here you go. Right? Your coworker's gonna be like, oh yeah, here you go. Right?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now, do you mind me asking really quick? Because I'm not too familiar with homeschool. Like, because obviously, you go to school, public school, you get a diploma, whatever. So what happens after like completing like each grade and high school, essentially? Like, do you get like a certificate or like something stating like, hey, I finished,
Or do you gotta
12th
take the
grade?
test?
Yeah. I think each state, first of all, has its own law. So one of the best organizations I've seen is hslda.org. That's like a homeschool group that's national. And so you actually go on their website, hslda.org.
Say
And
it
you
again.
can HS, like high school, HSLDA.
Okay.
So that organization, you can go to their website right now and look up what state you're in, and they'll tell you like all their laws and what you should and shouldn't do, for homeschooling. Because some states do require like, let's say they're in 12th grade, they got to get a state test. Some don't, for example. Some states are cool with you printing out your own diploma, or literally.
Oh, wow.
right? Because what happens most of the time is you file a PSA, private school affidavit, right? And that's just a paperwork, fancy way of saying it's a paperwork that says we're going to homeschool our kids. We are now a private school, right? We are a considered a private school essentially. So that means we get to kind of make up our own rules and whatnot. So
cool.
that's sort of the most common way. The organization just mentioned, that's the best way because I'm not a lawyer, so I'm actually practicing what I say. It's like I don't know the answer. Here you go.
Go look it up. Go Google it.
Go look it up because it's very complex depending on your state.
Yeah.
So I can't say for sure what works across all states, but I do know this organization is very good, and this is an organization that even my wife's mom went through, right? Where she wanted to know more about how to homeschool her kids because she really wanted her children to get an actual legit high school diploma, not just like a GED degree. There is a difference. You know what I mean? Right, between the two. Yeah. So she want to make sure, I want to get high school diploma. So what requirements, right? What paperwork do I need to submit to the state to show that my kids are qualified to get a high school diploma instead of a GED degree in California?
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I know because you have your stuff. So where can they find? Because you have your program, right?
Yeah.
The STEM program. Where can they find those that are thinking about it or want to get into it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So the link tree I have is Rock the STEM right here, actually on my shirt. My wife made this for me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So on the link tree, you'll find all my offerings. I have a free sample of my STEM curriculum. It's really just a downloadable PDF file of lessons that you can do, of STEM lessons that you can do at home. And I also try to email once a week. If you just get the free sample, at least I email you at least once a week with like some kind of new lesson idea, for example. Because the cool thing about STEM is that it's always expanding because science, technology, engineering, mathematics. I mean, those things are always expanding. They're always growing. There's always some kind of new cool technologies coming up, and that I'm not aware of. And I look on things and go, hey, this looks cool. I'm gonna send it to my people.
Yeah.
You can book a one-on-one coaching session with me for anything from parenting to business to homeschooling help. And I also coach on parenting as well, because a lot of things I mentioned today, right? It really deals with, just your unconscious mind and really what's running your life, what beliefs are driving you to be the parent that you are and the homeschooler that you are. So there's that, and I have a podcast too, The Heart Education, behind me. So yeah, that's
The Heart of Education, guys. Make sure you definitely subscribe, check him out on his podcast. He's doing some amazing things, and also, like I said, for the educational system, definitely I encourage you to check him out. He's also on was it TikTok?
Yeah, on Linktree. Yeah, it's Rock the STEM. For that one, YouTube is Heart Education. Pinterest, Rock the STEM. I'm trying to think what else I'm on.
I'll definitely make sure to it. If you guys are on YouTube, I definitely gonna put the link on there. It should be at the bottom. But man, I appreciate you, man, just taking the time out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like always, guys. First, guys, make sure you guys subscribe, like, watch it. This is great information. I definitely encourage you. I hope you guys were taking notes. That was it was good, man. It was valuable.
Thank you.
But yeah, guys, like I always like to say, before we go, I just remind you parents to keep being an inspiration and to never downplay the impact that you have for your loved ones so you can conquer the chaos. See you guys next week.
All right. Thank you.